Hello, today I will be reviewing the Doctor Who Beginner box set, which is my favourite William Hartnell box set of all time. Now this contains the first three shows of Doctor Who, which is An Unearthly Child, The Daleks, and The Edge of Destruction. Now, if you wanted to buy this item, you could go to the BBC shop and go to William Hartnell, go to Doctor Who, then William Hartnell section, and you'll find this box set. Now, as you see on the front, it says Doctor Who, but it is sort of backwards because I'm recording this. But it does say Doctor Who, and then it says BBC DVD. And the back is just the same. It says 3 discs, and then it says all the episodes that it has been included. The age is 12 because in the Dalek story they had to get drugs, and I will talk about that in a minute. Well, it shows the front cover of the Daleks, which is a really nice colour because Doctor Who really came out when they introduced Daleks. But my favourite episode out of this is William Hartnell's very first story of Doctor Who, An Unearthly Child, which is the most best story I've ever seen of Doctor Who in William Hartnell's era. And it is the first ever story of Doctor Who. So yeah, that's really good. Taking the box set out might be a little bit tricky. Now I got this for Christmas about a few months ago, so it's Matt Barnes, so that should be about 3 months ago. Now here are the DVDs, so I'll start with the very first one, my favourite, An Unearthly Child. So Doctor Who, An Unearthly Child, BBC DVD, and it says down there the William Hartnell years 1960 to 1966. That's because he played Doctor for 3 years, from 1962 to 1966, from An Unearthly Child to the 10th Planet. Now, it just says that on the front with sort of TARDIS circles in the old series of TARDISes, in the classic before the new generation. On the back it shows you a few pictures of An Unearthly Child from An Unearthly Child. It says An Unearthly Child starring William Hartnell. This just has the Doctor Who logo. It says by Anthony Coburn, the writer of Doctor Who for the story. It says the first ever story of the world's longest running science fiction series comes to DVD for the first time. So that's pretty cool for Doctor Who fans. And it says it gives you a sort of, tells you what the story is about, but I'll be putting that into my own words a few minutes later. It says the special features like how they made the programme back in 1963, so coming soon trailers, all that. Now, if you open on the side, it says Doctor Who picture of William Hartnell, and it says An Unearthly Child, and it says BBC 2. If you open it, the disc just looks like the front cover, and you have this. Sort of tells you more about special features, about the people who played in the programme, but not William Hartnell because he sadly passed away back in 1974, the year after the 10th anniversary of Doctor Who. So it says William Rashleigh played Ian Chesterton from 1963 to 1965. Karen Fuller played the Doctor's granddaughter Susan from 1962 to 1964, and Verity Lambert, the first producer of Doctor Who in the 1960s. Ross Hussein, carried at the BBC is the first director of Doctor Who back in the 1960s. Gary Russell, who has done a number of Doctor Who books. Well, it just says there's not many special features because it's the 60s where Doctor Who was important in DVDs. So, and plus they didn't have DVDs back in those times, where they only bought videos out back in the 90s. So it just tells you about my favourite special features has been the comedy sketches where they sort of take fun out of Doctor Who for its 40th anniversary. So that's and they also include commentaries, Now, what I like about this is that it includes the pilot episode, which was scheduled to be put on television but never was. So that's a really nice sort of thing to do for us to put it in. So that's really good. So now we'll move on to the second story. The Daleks. Now, this is the first introduction of the Daleks back in 1963, and this made the program go really big because, you know, monsters. Now, what I like about this, Anthony Coburn didn't want any BEMs, and that stands for Bug-Eye Monsters, but he thought the Daleks were Bug-Eye Monsters, but they weren't. They were sort of like us, but had a civil war. I'll be doing a review on Genesis of the Daleks about a week or tomorrow or the day after, which will tell you about the story how Daleks came to life by their creator Davros. But this introduced the first. Now, what happens is that well, the Doctor has just escaped from cavemen, which I will be doing, telling about all the stories in a minute. Well, on the front cover it just says Doctor Who, the Daleks, BBC DVD, picture of the Dalek cover, which is put onto the box set. It says William Hartnell years, 1963 to 1966. It shows a picture of William Hartnell on the side. This is the Doctor Who, picture of William Hartnell, the Daleks. On the back it just shows a picture of the Daleks, and it says Doctor Who logo starring William Hartnell, and then the Daleks by Terry Nation, the first to introduce the Daleks to our screen back in 1963, is the creator of the Daleks. The Doctor is about to, and it says here, the Doctor is about to have his first meeting with the Daleks, because you know the Daleks are one of the most popular Doctor Who enemies of all time, because like superheroes, like Superman and Lex Luthor, you've got to have a really good buddy that keeps coming back. So that's what Doctor Who did. They had the Daleks and the Cybermen. It tells you just about the introduction to the story. It's a really good story. It's a 12 because they had to get radiation drugs because they were suffering from bad radiation, which I'll be talking about in a minute. So that's it for the Daleks. Wait, I haven't showed you this, sorry. Forgetful things. Now, it's just like the front cover. Now, this tells you more about the story and the special features. It includes, well, William Russell, Caroline Ford, Verity Lambert, Christopher Barry is another director of Doctor Who, and Richard Martin, and began a TV career in the 60s with Doctor Who. And Gary Russell, like, produced a lot of Doctor Who books. It has a photo gallery and the creator of a documentary that looks at the origins of Doctor Who's most feared villains, the Daleks. So that's very nice. It has commentaries as well. So that's it for disc 2. Let's move on to the last DVD of the box set. Now, At the Edge of Destruction. Brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. It basically sort of, they thought something's gone into the ship, but it hasn't. And they're sort of just like wondering if something's possessed them, and it hasn't. But it's something wrong with the fault. Sorry about that. Like, well, the front just shows like all the others. It says Doctor Who logo, BBC DVD. Oh, sorry. And it just, sorry about that. So, just like, and then it shows a picture of Ian and Barbara in the TARDIS because they, well, the first Doctor is going to throw them out of ship because they think they've sort of set them. At the back, it says about starring William Hartnell, There's Destruction by David Whittaker, the writer. Doctor Who logo, special features, and the story. So in the disc is the front of the Doctor Who logo. It's an introduction to the story and the the sort of thing. Now, it also introduced a Marco Polo, which is really nice. It sort of ties the story of Marco Polo. It's a 30-minute version of the fourth ever Doctor Who story, but unfortunately, most of Doctor Who's stories have been lost to the BBC archives. So that's really nice. It has documentaries, Doctor Who Oranges as well, Over the Edge, Inside the Spaceship, basically a documentary about the ship, TARDIS, which is one of the most brilliant time machines ever, brilliant spacecraft. So that's it. So I'll be telling you about stories. Now the first story, An Child, featured the first Doctor. Now Susan, the Doctor's granddaughter, had this really good knowledge about science and history, but her homework was really bad, and she's brilliant at some things. And one thing that they pointed out was she didn't know the decimal system. She thought we were on the decimal system, but back in the 60s, that was the Americans were on the decimal system. So they thought that was really strange. So they went to Ironform's 76 Trotters Lane, which is where the TARDIS originally parked back in 1963. Now, Ian and Barbara and Ian Cheston, go there one evening, and they find a police box, and then they see the Doctor, an old grandfather figure, but they don't know it's a grandfather. So, what they do is they force their way into the ship, which is the TARDIS, because they think that he's capturing them. And then they just walk into this massive room, which they can't explain. But then the Doctor sets coordinates. But in this period, because William Hartnell had a bad memory, he couldn't remember all the controls of the ship. So he set it, and he couldn't fly it. That's a really good story to make up for it. And then he goes back to 1000 BC, time of cavemen. And the cavemen need fire, but they see the TARDIS and they capture the Doctor. But then Susan, Ian and Barbara try to rescue him, but end up getting caught. But there are skulls in where they prison them, so they lit up the skulls and discovered the key to fire. So they frightened them and then tried to get away. And they ended up getting away and going to the ship, then going to the planet of Skaro, which is my next bit, the Daleks. Now, the TARDIS has landed on a planet wrecked by a nuclear war, and they find this city, which is sort of side-set technology. So the Doctor wanted to see the city for himself, find what out was there. So he stopped he stopped one of the devices from moving, but it turns out that he sabotaged it, but he thinks that Ian and Barbara and Susan, it ran out. So they go to the Dalek City trying to get help, but they end up finding the Daleks, and Barbara runs off. And at the end of the first episode, we saw the Daleks plunger coming out and Barbara just screaming. That really scary for 1963 children. Then they have to get to the Thals, the sworn enemy of the Daleks. So that's what they do, and they help them to destroy the Dalek City. Then the Doctor goes off, and apparently at the end of the Daleks, the ship they all faint, and they think that something has gone to the TARDIS, and they think that somebody's possessed inside them. And Susan acts like she's very possessed, but she ain't. And there's something wrong with the fault indicator that indicates that something is wrong. So that's what they do. Then, it turns out that the fault indicator has something wrong, but they've crashed near a sun. So the Doctor sort of puts it all right, and then they end up going to a nice planet in Marco Polo. So that's our reviews. That's 10/11 reviews, Doctor Who beginning box set. Please subscribe to our videos. Thank you for watching.